Chapter 16, Coordination in Humans. Do you remember Professor Stephen Hawkins? He lived with motor neuron disease for 55 years, MND. MND is a rare and fatal disease. It results from the degeneration of motor neurons in the brain and the spinal cord. Motor neurons. Neurons mean nerve cells. Motor, that means control, movement, related to movement. So some nerve cell related to movement. And people with MND may have muscle weakness, muscle cramps, and speech problems. But usually their senses are unaffected. But why? Now, before you can find out the answer, okay, I would like you to have a very important terms to you. It's irritability. Irritability actually is one of the 7 characteristics of a living organism that is very important for their survival. And it's referred to the ability of organism to detect stimuli, any changes of the environment, internal or external environment, and then give out appropriate responses. Usually these responses to help them to survive, okay, for example, for finding food or for running from a danger, okay, to making a decision to do some, for their survival. This is one of the examples. And how organism can detect stimuli and respond to them, we call irritability. So how we detect stimuli and then give responses. Now remember, these are the major events from detecting a stimulus to producing a response. Stimulus is a singular noun. Stimuli is a plural noun, okay? So these 5 components, remember, stimulus, receptor, coordinator, effector, and response. Okay, this is the major event. And it is referred to how the receptor, just like the sensor in our sense organ, for example, in our eyes, okay, detect the stimulus. This is the light, all right, the light from an object. We detect the stimulus. And then how these receptor will produce and send nerve impulse to our coordinator. Our coordinator can be our nervous system and or our endocrine system. Endocrine system referred to the system that is responsible for secreting hormones, just like the insulin that we learned before, just like hormones, okay? And to give our effector, to give information or instruction to our effector. And the effector will give out appropriate responses. Now, I'll give you an example to take a look at this. For example, this boy, he see a bus, and actually the light from the bus is the stimulus. And how the boy can see the bus is detected by the eyes, the receptor in the eyes. The sensor in the eyes we call photoreceptor. And then these receptor will send nerve impulse to the brain, along the nerves to the brain. And then the brain can interpret this as a bus and give the boy the sensation of a bus. All right, this is the first response of the brain, give you the sensation. At the same time, your brain will make some decision, process the information stored in your brain. He will think, should I run for the bus or wait for the next bus, for example? And then he have to process a lot of information, all right, to make a decision. After the brain make the decision, for example, he decided to run for the bus, the brain will send a nerve impulse to the neck muscles, that means our effector, to give out the response we call the effector. And then your leg muscle will contract because receive this instruction, the nerve impulse. So the boy will run towards the bus to give out the responses. And that is how our body detect the stimulus and then give out the response. And that involves the coordinator, the coordinating system, links receptors and effectors so that they are well coordinated. So please remember these 5 major events from detecting a stimulus to give out a response. Stimulus, receptor, coordinator, effector, and response. Next part, I'm going to talk about the general plan of a nervous system. The human nervous system consists of two main parts: central nervous system, CNS, peripheral nervous system, that means not at the center, that is apart from the center, it's called peripheral, 外圍嘅, we call PNS. CNS consists of the brain and the spinal cord. I usually tell my student it's just like a lollipop, right? The brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system, PNS, consists of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves link the receptor and the effector in the head and the neck region. And it is like, for example, like the optic nerves, it links the eye and the brain. Auditory nerves is link the ear and the brain. Spinal nerves link, spinal nerve actually they link the body, the rest of the body, all right, from the spinal cord to the rest of the body. And we call these spinal nerves. For example, from the spinal cord to your arm, to your leg. For example, for the example I've just given to you, when the boy decided to run for the bus, so it sends nerve impulse all the way through the spinal, from the brain through the spinal cord and then to the leg muscle, all right, through the spinal nerves to the leg muscle. And when your muscle receives this nerve impulse, they will contract and then run. It's something like that.